Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Rocket League Mapmaking tutorial series. Today we're going to be talking about how to make custom Dropshot tiles again. So about a year ago in the Fire and Ice update, they changed how Dropshot tiles work. Basically, instead of using UC exclusion, they're now using per poly. It's to get rid of the issue where if you roll the ball slowly across tiles, it would sometimes pop up. And so per poly collision is a lot more accurate, so it's not going to pop nearly as much. I've made it a lot easier than last time too, so let's get started. First of all, if I want to create a full tile, I have this just copy paste full tile. I just copy, I paste, and I have a full tile. I figured this is just much easier to do it this way. So this is what I've started doing. And then you place your tiles like normal, you just duplicate them. And so these tiles also have all of the default settings set up for you. You don't have to do anything. So I'm going to line these up a little bit. I don't really care that much because this is an actual map. So in the settings, most of it is about the same. You can ignore my favorited stuff just right here. The half size, that's just indicating if the tile is half size. If you want to create a half size tile, I actually have a copy paste half tile as well. And it'll put in a half tile for you. Again, setting set up, and it has that half size checked. That's all that means. Primary player start, I have no idea why this is here. I leave it unchecked all the time. Checking it doesn't do anything. I don't know why it's there. Team index is the team that can damage the tile. So you set this to 1, blue can damage it. If you set it to 0, orange can damage it. Max damage is supposed to be the max damage the tile can take. So theoretically, if you set this to 1, you hit it once and it breaks. And I'm pretty sure the collision breaks, but the visuals do not. So I would always just leave this at 2. 2 means you hit it once, it lights up, and on the second one, it breaks. And then I'll skip neighbors for now, we'll come back to that in a second. And then we have our connected collisions. So this is the difference in the Fire and Ice update. They added these connected collision meshes, which I will go over when we do custom collision. If you're just doing a default tile, you don't need to worry about changing these. As long as they're set to this, they'll work properly. So I'm going to select my middle tile here. And for neighbors, this is all the tiles that surround this tile. So I'm going to select every tile that surrounds this one. Then I'm going to hit this little arrow and it assigns it for me. Then I'm going to unlock like this one, lock it again. Same thing, these 3 surround it, and do that. The reason you do this is because the game doesn't know by default what tiles are surrounding it. So this is basically telling the game what tiles are around it. So if you have a charged ball, it will look through this array and find everything around it and damage the amount it needs to depending on the ball charge. Alright, and if you load a game, this will work perfectly for you. I'm not going to, I will later, and I'll show you that it works. But I'll load later when I do the custom tile. So I'm going to set these aside to somewhere I can hit them. That's fine. And then we'll come check back on those later. Another thing is that if your tile appears black in-game, check this box, use pre-computed shadows. It could be something with the lighting in this map, but the tiles appear black sometimes. So if it does, just check that box and it'll be fixed. All right, next we're going to go over custom tiles. For the visual tiles, they are exactly the same as they were before. The top is black, the rings are red. This is identical to before the update and after the update. It's the same thing. So I'm going to hide them because we're going to get to that later. If you're doing default tiles, you don't even need to worry about this. This Blender file is also going to be in the Google Drive if you want to look at it and read these notes yourself, but I'm going to go over it a little more in detail than these few sentences. So this is what the collision mesh looks like for the big tile now. So if you go in here and you look at this and you see connected collision mesh, that is what this is. And then this is connected collision mesh half. So what they did for per poly collision is it takes this triangle. I'm just going to duplicate it for now. It puts it in the middle, rotates it by 30 degrees, and then it does that 6 times in a spiral. And that is how it works. And if you're wondering why it's red and pink, I have vertex colors turned on so I can see it. It does not matter how you color these collision meshes, as far as I can tell. I have made them white, black, pink, red. I've made them all the colors. I don't know why they're colored like this. So the half tiles is what we're going to be using for our custom collision. Are really annoying, to put it simply. Basically, what it does is it takes this half and then it rotates it by 90 degrees. And I'm going to lift this up just a little bit. And then it takes that and it rotates it across the x-axis. So it mirrors it across the x. I don't know why this needed to be rotated 90 degrees before I did that. That's how it works. And then it takes 2 of these in here, also mirrors that as well. So this is how we're going to be creating our custom dropshot tile. So the tiles have to be symmetrical because of this. But at least they work and they'll be per poly, which means you can do a lot more complex shapes than you could with UCX collision. And the collision is also going to be a lot more accurate. And then for the big tile, we're just going to set an empty collision. So we're only dealing with half. And that's how we're going to make our custom tile. So I'm going to go to a different blend file. I've just have this copied in here. Just Control C, copy, and then paste it. It makes it a lot easier to have this mesh just here when I'm working with tiles. That's just why it's here. All right, so I'm just going to create a cube. Subdivide it a few times. And then I'm going to mirror it across an axis. I just did that with HardOps, which is a plugin, but you can just use a mirror plugin. So what we're going to do is we're going to create atrocious geometry. Absolutely atrocious, like a tooth or something. Something that UCX collision could not do. Just to show you that this collision, or this change to the collision, is not entirely bad. Alright, and this is my collision mesh. It looks like a helmet or something, I don't know. But the point is that UCX collision cannot deal with this. This is too much for UCX collision. You can only use per poly for this. And so that is the good news about this new system, is that it uses per poly. And so you can do a lot more weird shapes. I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to get rid of the mirror modifier. So now I have half of the mesh. I'm going to apply the sub D on both of them. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to rotate this by negative 90 degrees. And so this is our collision, and then this is the visual mesh. And so basically, if you remember the tile, rotate by positive 90, and then mirror it over that axis. There we go. So like that. So this rotate 90, and then mirror it just like that, and it's the same mesh. It's really annoying that you have to rotate it like this, but you know, that's how it works. All right, so now that we have this, I'm going to hide the collision model for now. In the visual model, I'm going to vertex paint it entirely black. So I'm just going to go here, set this all like that. Set vertex color. Now it's entirely black, which means it can break properly. All right, now that you've vertex painted it, something to keep in mind is that this is all going to follow as a single mesh because it's one giant face and it hasn't split up. So an easy way to do that is use a modifier called edge split. The problem is that this is going to make sharp edges. If you set this to something like 60 and you have some sharp edges, it can work. Unfortunately, my mesh is too weird. Do that. If you set this to 0, it will separate all the faces, but now you can't do smooth shading because they're all separate faces, nothing's connected. So I'm going to remove that for now. But that's an easy way to separate the faces, so every face will fall individually instead of all at once. And with that, we're going to do some UV editing. So I already have the texture pulled up. If you watch my old tutorial, then you know how this works. You're just going to UV edit. I'll have this texture in the Google Drive. But you UV this however you want with this specific texture, because it's the only texture that's going to break with the tiles. The only one that works. So I'm just going to unwrap it. And this is perfectly fine. I might do a smart UV projects. Okay, I'm not doing that. This is fine though. So now I'm going to export both of them. So I'm going to unhide my collision. So for this, I'm going to shade it flat because I want to see the collision. So for this custom tile visual, and custom tile collision. And then we're going to go into UDK. And I'm going to import both of those, tile collision and visual. And for the collision, you're going to want to go in here, uncheck these 3 boxes because it is per poly collision. And don't worry about the material, you won't be able to see it. And for this is perfectly fine. It's shaded flat and triangulated. It looks ugly, but we're going to be able to see the collision a little more easily. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to use my copy paste half tile that I talked about earlier. And we're going to use this as our template. So in here, I'm going to go to static mesh component, and I'm going to set this as my visual. So you see this just changed the mesh. And then as my collision, we're going to set as connected collision mesh half size. And there we go, just like that. And then for the other mesh, what we want is I just use a cube with these 3 boxes checked. It doesn't matter what mesh it is. It can't be empty, but it doesn't matter what mesh it is because you're not going to be able to see it. It's just the collision mesh. Do not leave this empty. It will crash the game. All right, and now we have connected collision mesh set like that. This should work. The material should be work. All right, and then I'm also going to go in and I'm going to check use pre-computed shadows, and we're good. I'm going to go in game and I'm going to show you that this works along with the normal Dropshot tiles. All right, so to test this, I'm going to include this part too. I'm just going into Rocket plugin, setting the game mode as Dropshot, and selecting Utopia Retro. And that's it. I'm also going to set my boost amount to unlimited. All right, so here we are in game. Here is my Dropshot tile, and you can see it works just like per poly collision. I can actually like drive on it. And the collision is actually like we're looking exactly how I am touching it, which is super nice. UCX collision would not be this precise. And yeah, this is a Dropshot tile. All right, I'm gonna hit the helmet, and you see the top lit up because that's how I UV'd it. And there you go. There it breaks. And that is a custom Dropshot tile. And now I'm going to show you the default tiles, just show you that they worked, and to prove that I'm, not lying to you. Yeah, I might be lying to you. All right, so now I'm going to hit the tile, and there we go. Our default tiles work properly. And that is how you use new Dropshot tiles along with old ones. And if you want to update old Dropshot tiles, all you have to do is load into a map. The neighbors will save. You just have to set these for parameters. And you have to recheck half size. This variable didn't transfer. But other than that, you should be able to go to old Dropshot maps and fix them if you have old ones that use Dropshot tiles that now crash when you try to load them in game. And that's going to end this tutorial. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you.